President, I rise to oppose the confirmation of William Evanina, who we will be voting on shortly, because of his failure to protect whistleblowers. Leading whistleblower protection organizations support the opposition to Mr. Evanina's confirmation. And Mr. President, I would now ask unanimous consent that the statements of 4 organizations, true advocates of whistleblower rights at this crucial time, be included in the record at this point.
Is there objection? Without objection.
Mr. President, it is currently open season on whistleblowers under the Trump administration. Donald Trump and those around him have made it clear that anyone who speaks up about waste, fraud, abuse, or law-breaking can be punished. If you are a whistleblower under the Trump administration, Donald Trump himself and his echo chamber will publicly call you a liar. They will threaten to make your name public, even at the cost of your physical security. They will prevent your complaints from getting to the Congress, and they will fire the inspectors general who investigate your complaints. Now more than ever, courageous whistleblowers deserve leaders who are going to protect them, defend them, and vigorously advocate and work for them. They deserve leaders who are going to stand up to Donald Trump and anybody else who tries to punish those who are going to speak truth especially to those in power. And I'm rising today, taking this time of the Senate, to speak on behalf of whistleblowers who feel under siege right now. I'm on the floor to oppose the confirmation of William Evanina's track record, his track record of inaction, and why he should not be the director of the National Counterintelligence and Security Center. The fact is, Mr. President, Mr. Evanina has failed repeatedly the key test on protecting whistleblower rights. Specifically, he failed to enact whistleblower protections that the Congress required in 2014. Think about that. All those years to get the job done, and he wouldn't do it. That's a 6-year track record of letting down whistleblowers and failing to follow the law. Today, Congress ought to stand up for whistleblowers, protect our democracy and the rule of law. And when Congress does act and pass whistleblowers protection legislation, the way this body did in 2014, the Congress must not reward those who ignore the whistleblower protection laws. And here you have a case of exactly that. Refusal to implement it for almost 6 years, and the person we're discussing with that track record of not being there for whistleblowers at a crucial time is being considered for a job promotion in the Senate. I want to unpack for a few minutes what the world looks like now to a potential whistleblower in today's intelligence community. One of the biggest threats faced by whistleblowers who work with classified information is that their bosses are going to retaliate against them by revoking their security clearances. Without clearances, they can't do their jobs. Their livelihoods are ruined. Their families suffer. That threat has a chilling effect on potential whistleblowers and makes it less likely that abuses are going to be investigated and brought to light. The Congress has cared about this for years. It's why in 2014, the Congress passed legislation specifically prohibiting the revocation of security clearances as a form of retaliation against whistleblowers. So here's what the question was. What happens if a whistleblower's boss simply insists that they revoke the security clearance for some other reason? What if they say it wasn't for retaliation for being a whistleblower? Does the whistleblower have any recourse? Is there an appeals process? Or are whistleblowers who stick their neck out to report waste, fraud, and abuse just out of luck? The Congress then stood with whistleblowers. In that same 2014 law, Congress required the Director of National Intelligence, in consultation with the Attorney General and Secretary of Defense, to develop and implement policies and practices to make that appeals process for whistleblowers a reality. In other words, the Congress recognized that if whistleblowers were truly going to be protected from retaliation, there had to be a meaningful process for them to defend themselves against agencies that always have all the power and always have an obvious incentive to silence and remove those who speak up about abuses. So this important law was passed by Congress, signed by the President on July 7, 2014. As of that day in 2014, the Director of National Intelligence should have been drafting those policies. But they didn't do it in 2014, nor in 2015, nor in 2016, nor in 2017, or 18, or 19. All those years of inaction, and certainly they haven't done it in 2020. Not because of the pandemic, but despite the pandemic, because this is a crucial time when whistleblower protection is needed now more than ever, because we need those folks to be speaking truth to policymakers. And I want to tell the Senate who was at the helm every single one of those years of inaction. The person the Senate is thinking about promoting today, William Evanina. 6 years have passed. Mr. Evanina has not produced those whistleblower protection policies required by law. During that time, there have been 5 directors of national intelligence. The Congress made the director of the NCSC a Senate-confirmed position. Mr. Evanina kept his job, becoming both acting director and the nominee. Meanwhile, Congress reached out to ask, what's the story on these policies? Is anybody actually moving to protect the whistleblowers, as Congress required in 2014? And I want to say it again. On Mr. Evanina's watch, nothing happened in 2014, nothing happened in 2015, nothing happened in 2016, nothing happened in 2017, 2018, 2019, and not in 2020. No policies. Lots of empty rhetoric, no policies. Without the actual policies, Mr. President, whistleblowers are vulnerable. And when they tell the truth and push for accountability, they suffer. Every day, Donald Trump steps up his attacks on whistleblowers, on inspectors general, on the whole system of accountability that has traditionally been bipartisan. Congress has pushed back, passing laws to protect whistleblowers. But the laws have to mean something. For the sake of whistleblowers and the rule of law, Congress should not reward those who ignore the law and leave whistleblowers vulnerable. That is what Mr. Evanina has done for 6 years. That's why I cannot support his confirmation. He has defied the law, failed to protect whistleblowers. I'm going to state the obvious. When the Congress passes a law, it's got to be implemented. When Congress directs the government to protect whistleblowers, that's something that is priority business. In 2014, this body tried to protect whistleblowers. A law was passed. Mr. Evanina has ignored it all these years. That's just not acceptable. Now, with Donald Trump and his administration feeling free to publicly attack whistleblowers again and again, to conduct an unremitting assault on the entire whistleblower system, laws to protect them are especially important to our democracy. Day after day, we see the costs of Donald Trump's campaign to silence people who speak up about abuses. We see it in his efforts to cover up his failed, often corrupt responses to the COVID-19 crisis. We see it across the board. Now is when this country needs officials who are going to demonstrate leadership, who are going to stand up for the brave and the people who are willing to put their neck out to report misconduct. Whistleblowers deserve it. The country deserves it. Now, last point I'm going to make, Mr. President, my colleagues probably have heard, they're going to hear it, I believe, again, that Mr. Evanina is going to promise once more, after 6 years of empty promises, Mr. Evanina is going to promise once more to complete these critical whistleblower protection policies. What I'd ask senators is enough, right? After 6 years of unfulfilled promises, the Senate ought to say the country deserves better. The country deserves action. The country deserves real protection for whistleblowers. Mr. Evanina remains the acting director. I want him, even after he hasn't done it for 6 years, I want him to complete those whistleblower protection policies. When they are completed and the law Congress passed is implemented, seems to me that's the time for the Senate to discuss again whether Mr. Evanina should get a promotion. Now, last, I just want to come back to how I started, Mr. President. I'm not the only one who feels this way. The country's leading whistleblower organizations have made it clear they oppose Mr. Evanina's confirmation due to his failure to produce policies. They include such organizations as the Government Accountability Project, the Project on Government Oversight, Whistleblower Aid, National Security Counselors. It's not just one member of the United States Senate who's here to say that it is time to finally ensure that these courageous Americans, these patriots, who are willing to come forward when all the incentives in American government are to stay quiet, not put yourself at risk. Don't put your career in jeopardy. When all the incentives are for them to stay quiet. In this country right now, we need them speaking truth more than ever before. I oppose this nomination because there is a long, long track record of not being willing to stand up for these courageous whistleblowers, and I intend to vote against the nominee.